What's up, friends? My name is Pye. I am a photographer, an online educator, and now, Dr. Glenn, I gotta say, a relationship expert.
Yes, you are, man. I'm going to bow down to that.
No, don't do that. But look, I think my expertise is I spent the last 20 years of my career just taking complex subjects and breaking them down into something simple and easy to master. I make educational frameworks.
Hi, everyone. My name is Glenn. I'm a doctor of psychology, former social worker, professor, and department chair at Whittier College.
I should be bowing down, bro.
I appreciate that, man. And I do 20 years. I have 20 years of traditional counseling experience and academic research.
Yeah, what Dr. Glenn is saying is he brings the legitimacy to our platform.
Thanks, man. So do you, man.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Look, we wanted to create a quick introduction video, talk about why we're here, why you're here. And the short answer to that is we created this platform to help you create better relationships in weeks, not years. And a couple things. The entire platform began by asking a simple question about 20 years ago. The question is, what does a healthy long-term relationship look like? But when we ask it, we're not just talking about romantic relationships. We kind of think that we're talking about romance and marriage, but we're asking like all relationships.
Well, this is the thing. Relationships are so vital and they provide purpose and meaning in our life that no one can answer that simple question. What does a healthy relationship look like?
Yeah, it's a frustratingly simple question. But like you said, with so much significance and meaning, I mean, we spend from our peers who are focusing on the psychology and the study of it to the people that are studying relationships, the majority of our time is spent, on romantic relationships. But that's just one of all of our significant relationships.
Absolutely. And basically, when it comes to traditional counseling, it's ineffective. And if you look at the statistics, people spend 5 years, $50,000 on a product that's 20% effective when it comes to long-term results.
So I got to say, though, when you say that, it sounds like an opinion. When people read it on our site, I often wonder, like, this sounds exaggerated. It sounds like an opinion, but we have to say that this is literally based on studies that you conducted that included 75 academic journals showing these findings. And what we found, if I could briefly summarize
please,
is basically that when we say 20% effective, this is an at-best scenario. The average couple will spend $45,000 in up to 5 years on a service that is at best, meaning they have a 1 in 4 or a 1 in 5 shot of long-term improvement. That's not at worst, because there was plenty of studies that showed it being completely ineffective. So we're at the at best side with this.
Well, this is the crazy thing. That's like going to a 1-star reviewed restaurant and then spending $50,000 on food that you do not like. You're possibly getting sick.
I was wondering if you were going to go there. $50,000 over 5 years.
And just doing it over and over repeatedly, like it's insanity that someone would want to do that. But that's what people do when they go to traditional counseling.
Yeah, just on a side note, I wouldn't spend $5 on a 1-star restaurant, but yes.
Yeah, you wouldn't spend $5, but yet people spend $50,000.
$50,000 in 5 years. And to me, the only thing worse than divorce is having spent that money and that time and having an 80% shot of making it to the exact same place. And once again, you're unlikely to go to, a therapist when we're talking about your friendships, when we're talking about your family relationships, your children. You're unlikely to seek professional help or to spend the money in any of those other instances. And these are significant relationships. So when we say, what does a healthy relationship look like? What we're answering, the question that we're here to do, what we want to provide for you is we want to start with the relationship you have with yourself. We want to work out to your friendships, your family relationships, your children. We want to talk about your professional relationships. And yes, of course, include dating, romance, and marriage and all of that.
And this is the thing, like, going back to the restaurant analogy, if you're served food and it's all mashed together, you're not going to want to eat it, right? And so what we do is we break relationships down into compartments. Like, you have to be accountable for what you bring to a relationship. You have to examine the relationships that you do have.
Yeah.
And basically go to the roots and start looking at yourself and being really clear about what you do and do not need to do.
So let's do this, because what was interesting is I think you talk about the medical model really well. What we're talking about in terms of like relationship therapy being, at least traditional counseling and traditional therapy services being ineffective, is that the medical model of intervention doesn't really allow for anything other than middle line treatment. It's like very symptom focused.
Well, once again, it's like taking all of your food and mashing it all together.
Yeah.
And they're basically saying just think it through versus like the nuance of it and all the complexities that are involved when it comes to relationships. They don't do that for you, and that's why it doesn't work. So it's like basically, taking a painkiller when in truth you need physical therapy because you need to retrain your muscles to have long-term results. But the medical model doesn't do that for you.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And one of the analogies you provided too was that treatments in the medical model of intervention have to be not extreme on either side. It can't cause significant change in your life. It also can't be, not enough. It has to kind of keep you managed. It's symptom management. And so in terms of relationship therapy, what we're talking about is the way that people argue. How do you approach conflict? What are some of the things that are being said that are triggering each other? We're going to address these visible symptoms, but we're not going to look at those underlying issues, the core root problems. And this is exactly to that point that you're saying, that it's a painkiller versus, hey, we need the painkiller, it's important, but we also need the physical therapy. We need to stop the pain now, and we need to actually address the underlying issue.
And that's the thing. Once again, if you do traditional counseling, if you have deep wounds, they're going to tell you, take a walk. Hey, go talk it out. Use I statements versus, where is this pain coming from? And what can we do to make this better?
Yeah.
And that's never addressed.
So we kind of took a different approach. We had this, we call it a radical idea, probably because we just had no idea how much work it would involve. But we had this idea of, what if we could use science, academia, all the things that are coming through the studies, but actually apply it to a real world practice and create a model of therapy that is practical and actually, something that actually works.
Well, the crazy thing is we took 40 years of our experiences.
I know, when you look back at it.
Professional, academic, your case studies, the case studies that we did together, and we put it all together. But I think ultimately it was our pain, man. Your pain and my pain, that was a driving force to figure ourselves out. And it basically became this beautiful thing that is this comprehensive program that helps you look at relationships yourself and what you can do. And there's a roadmap to make better relationships for yourself in the future.
I got to break that down for you guys because there was so much in there, Dr. Glenn.
Oh, thanks, man.
Well, first, the experience. I had started studying psychology 20 years ago. I had started taking and collecting data for 10 years. That led to 500 plus case studies. Then I spent 5 years putting it into an actual structure. And that became what we call the SSRM. It's the stupid, simple relationship method. I called it that not because it's not scientific. I called it that because everything we do, we want it to be simple. We want it to be intuitive, because if it's not that, we can't bring it into our daily lives. So I had this book and this roadmap, the SSRM, which basically answered that initial question of, what does a healthy relationship look like? And my thesis was that this applied to all relationships, that relationships are different in what they provide to us, but that they each fundamentally, when we're talking a long-term relationship, they all fundamentally follow this same framework. I gave that to you. We just met, had watching a UFC fight,
UFC event,
gave this to you and said, just curious, tell me what you think of this. And you called me 3 days later, I've read the book twice and we got a partner. But that was the initial roadmap, which then you took and built an entire therapy model around.
Well, this is the crazy thing. It was the missing piece, because traditional therapy will say, if you heal your wounds, you'll naturally know what a healthy relationship is. But that's not true. Even though you're doing better, then what, right? And you basically provided a roadmap and a guide of, this is what you need to do to have a healthy relationship. And then as we put this together, it became, you can work on yourself, heal yourself, not let those wounds, be the deciding factor in terms of your relationships, but also have a guide to have healthy relationships moving forward.
You had a structure. But what's nuts about it was that it took someone with your experience, because you have 20 years of, you're formally trained psychologist, you're a doctor, you have clinical experience, you have social working experience, and you're the chair of Whittier College. It took someone with your ability to look at it and then, now I'm going to apply an actual therapy model to this, which became what we call CVFT. And we only have two acronyms that you'll probably hear us using. CVFT stands for Core Value Focused Therapy. And basically the underlying structure, the roadmap of CVFT is the SSRM, the Stupid Simple Relationship Method. So yeah, that was incredible to me that you turned it into this program. And the end result is we turn you, our clients, into their own relationship experts.
And this is the thing, CVFT does what traditional therapy doesn't do, is we address the root problems, which is the core values of the individual and the relationship itself. I mean, we do address the immediate issues, the painkiller type issues, but more importantly, we get to the core of the issues and we give you real answers.
Yeah, I like to think of it like CVFT is in my mind a lot like a trauma surgeon. You know, when a trauma surgeon gets a new patient, there is a purpose in painkillers. There is a purpose in the immediate need of stopping the bleeding, right? CVFT incorporates that. But as soon as that's done, just like the surgeon would need to do, we then go in and actually fix the root problem. Because if that's not fixed, then nothing matters. You can surface treat, you can take care of the pain, but the problem still resurfaces each time. And this is what we found in those case studies. When you pulled up the journals and it was talking about the effectiveness of traditional counseling, couples were reporting that, well, when they went, they felt temporary relief until the next week where they would sit down and vent again. What those sessions was this subscription to a painkiller, but it never actually addressed the underlying issue. So when they stop, the benefit stops as well.
Well, the one thing I appreciate about you is you brought the practicality to it, and you would say, this is BS. This doesn't make sense. This is too abstract. So when we're taking all of the research together, we made it simple and easy to digest.
The goal is to always take science and academics, all of our research, but to pare it down into things that you can actually bring into your daily life. So maybe we can share with them just a little bit of how you guys can participate. I would say, number one, sign up for the newsletter. You can find the newsletter at 12weekrelationships.com. And we hate spam. You hate spam, don't you?
I hate spam.
Yeah, we hate
I like
spam.
eating it though. Yeah.
That's not the, I do too. That's actually very nice. So Masubi, the first thing I thought was Masubi, spam Masubi. When it comes to the newsletter, a lot of you have asked, when are we starting to put out our books? Well, you've already written quite a few books and academic textbooks, but you have other ones in the works. And I also have the SSRM, this manual that we have, and I do want to release that as a book as well, but I want to give it a bit of time. In the meantime, though, this newsletter is basically our way of delivering you a book to your email, topic by topic, chapter by chapter each week. It is highly valuable. Each of these messages are handwritten, and we want you to be able to have something of use, completely free. Within those newsletters, you'll also notice we call them, by the way, the TWR Roadmap. And within each Roadmap newsletter is also a link to a Roadmap episode on the podcast. This is our place for, well, it's kind of like our research grounds. Not only can Dr. Glenn and I discuss different topics, current events, we even have television shows where we're breaking down relationships, but we also get to discuss the concepts that we're developing. We get to discuss kind of what we see from client interactions, of course, all anonymously. And we get to bring the science into a long-form discussion. Also in the podcast, you're going to see from time to time that we might bring on guests, people that have a particular expertise or maybe a unique experience that we want to share. And then we have, of course, the Roadmap podcast, which dive into specific concepts. But we'd love for you to subscribe to the podcast. And finally, well, there's actually one more after this, but number 3 would be social media. So on TikTok, on Instagram, this is where you're going to find bite-sized short-form videos that are just little tips you can bring right into your daily life. If you like, you can share them very easily, and you can kind of get to know us a bit in the process. And last, we have actual coaching. This is your focus.
Yeah, and finally, we have one-on-one coaching. If you're interested, you can join the waitlist at 12weekrelationships.com. We will be having an online group platform for individuals and couples in the future, and all that information will be available via newsletter when enrollment becomes available.
Yeah. And so we do have a wait list right now because I think you're booked out several months in advance. Yeah. But what we're trying to do is get those online programs available. So both on a personal coaching level as well as on a couples coaching level, we can help quite a few more people at a time. But sign up for the wait list so we can let you know about both. And that's it. We're grateful that you're here. Thank you for joining us in this journey, and we hope that it's useful to you.
Thank you.